This right here is Desert Tech's Quattro-15. It has their own proprietary 53 round magazine and their own lower. So what do I think about it and how well does it perform? Let's get into that right now. All right, 53 rounds, let's rip it.
I get down.
So first of all, I did receive a complete rifle from Desert Tech for this review. I've had this rifle for about 2 months now, and I put around 600 rounds through it between 2 different uppers and 2 different magazines. Again, I was giving it to mainly test the lower and the magazines. Now let me get into the lower first. I'll talk more about these mags here in a second. So if you order the Desert Tech Quattro-15, it's going to come as a strip lower. It's only going to include their proprietary magazine release and bolt catch, which are both are ambidextrous. The magazine release, nothing special about that. It's on both sides. Let me talk about this bolt catch. Now, normally with ambi bolt catches, when it's on the right side for the right-handed shooter, normally it's a push-in style. That's mostly what I've seen. With Desert Tech's, I like it a lot because it's a push-down. And I think that's a lot more positive, especially as a left-handed shooter. When I do my reload, seat the mag, when I go to seat the bolt, put it back in the battery, I think pushing down is a lot more positive. So I really like this ambi bolt release design. Now let's talk about this huge mag well and these lightning cuts in it. Now at first I was pretty skeptical of any lightning cuts. I don't like lightning cuts in open spaces on ARs, but I think these actually serve a purpose besides looking cool, and that's allowing space for debris to go. Now when you insert a Desert Tech Quattro-15, the 53 round mag, if you look at it, the last 1/4 inch really is the same width as a standard M4 mag. And when you seat this into the gun, it seals up the upper receiver, so nothing's getting past it. This giant mag well is not leaving a gaping hole into the upper receiver. You seat the mag and it seals up the upper, but if the mag is dirty, it's been dropped, or there's debris on it, these lightning cuts, they offer a place for that debris to go. So I think these actually have some form and function to them. And again, once you seat the mag, the upper receiver is sealed up like a normal AR. So again, I think that's pretty good, but I'll talk more about these mags here in a second. Also on the Quattro-15 lower, it does have a QD sling mount on the left-hand side for right-handed shooters. I'm a lefty, I'm a little out of luck with that, but no big deal. And again, you're only gonna get the strip lower with their ambidextrous magazine and bolt release. Now, I received a full rifle. I did throw on my own Hyperfire EDT trigger. If you're a fan of my channel, you know I think Hyperfire, for the money, their EDT line are superb triggers. I threw on my own ambi selector, and the rifle I received initially came with a carbine length M-LOK handguard. I threw on my own Midwest Industries M-LOK handguard, and for the money, I think Midwest Industries offers the best balance between performance and cost. This handguard's under $200. This is a 16-inch barrel. It also came with Desert Tech's proprietary muzzle device. I'm a huge fan of the Warcomp, even though they're super pricey, but they're the best balance between acting like a comp and a flash hider. So I threw on one of those. I just have them on most of my rifles. And again, I'm about 600 rounds between 2 different mags, and I've actually used 2 different uppers just to try out the lower, and I'll talk more about that here in a second. But let's talk about these magazines and their performance. So I was given 2 magazines to try. Now these are still just prototype magazines. Their final version, they're actually testing right now. If you go to Desert Tech's Instagram, you can see videos of them drop testing 53 rounders, their final version, against other magazines like your Magpul mags and some other brands, and they're performing very well. So one thing I'm gonna do, this is just an initial video, I will do a part 2 once I receive some full production magazines, which are drop safe. These aren't, these again were given to test function. So I'll do an updated video once I get those final production magazines. They're supposed to be released sometime here in November. Now back to these mags. So far I put about just over 600 rounds through these two mags and two different upper receivers. I marked these mags. This magazine right here I've got just over 500 rounds through. That's like 9 reloads. This magazine I've got 100 rounds through, and so far they are performing flawlessly. I've had 0 feeding issues with these mags. Now, I posted a lot of videos on my Instagram and Reddit of me doing some shooting drills with the Quattro-15 and these magazines. The biggest question I've gotten so far is why 53 rounds and why not 55 or some other number? Why 53 is an odd number? It could be hard to count rounds. Well, first of all, whether it's tactical shooting or competitive shooting, you should not be trying to count rounds. You probably won't have time. In combat, when you see a threat, you shoot it down with the fastest string of fire possible to drive the threat down, and I've never had time to count rounds. And in competitive shooting, you don't count rounds, you count targets. So let's say there's 16 targets in a stage, you know that's 32 rounds. You have to plan a reload, so you count targets. Now with the Quattro-15, 53 rounder, you can shoot a lot more targets, and that's why in competitive shooting, extended magazines like your Magpul D60, not so much a Surefire, but Magpul D60 pretty popular, and these extended P-Mags, these 40 rounders are popular because in competitive shooting, most of your stages when it comes to rifle are built around 32 rounds just to force one reload. So running an extended magazine with more rounds keeps you from doing that reload. And matches are normally won by a second or tenths of a second at the top. So any second you can pick up by not having to do a reload is going to help you in a match. And that's why, again, extended mags are so popular. And I can see this taking off with competitive shooters first, and then maybe tactical shooting later on, but I'll talk more about that here in a little bit. So 53 rounds was picked based on optimum spring compression and the space that spring needs. And with 53 rounds, you cannot get a 54th in. One of the biggest problems, even with Gen 3 PMags, this is the Gen 2, is they allow you to put an extra round into the magazine, which if you put in with the bolt already forward, the mag's not going to seat properly and the mag's going to fall out when you fire a shot. When I teach classes, Magpul PMags are the #1 culprit of allowing 31 rounds into the mag and it falling out on a closed bolt when shooters are trying to shoot. With this 53 rounder, it does not allow a 54th, and that's important. You can only put 53, so you can't overload. So again, that's why it's 53 rounds and say not 55. It has to do with proper space for spring compression, and optimum rounds do not allow an extra in there. So that's why it's 53. Now let's talk about the length of these, and that's another important decision around why it's 53 rounds and not say another number. So here I have Desert Tech's 53 rounder, a standard Gen 2 PMag. As you can see, they're basically the same length. And I think that's important to note. One of the drawbacks of traditional extended magazines like this Magpul 40 rounder is sure, standing up, they're great, and you can't have enough ammo on board in combat. I have some teammates that rocked extended PMags back in my last tour of combat in 2015. The only hindrance these extended magazines really inhibit you with is shooting prone. When you jump down to the prone, you can't get as low as normal. You have to arch your back, your gun's up higher, you're not as stable. So being able to monopod with a standard length magazine, which the 53 rounder is, really you can shoot prone just as easily monopodding as you can with a standard mag. So I think that's one advantage the 53 round Desert Tech mag has over extended mags and magazines like your Surefire 60 rounder and even your Magpul D60 drum, just because it's a drum and it's not a magazine. So again, it kind of hinders you trying to monopod it. You don't have that problem with the Desert Tech 53 rounder. And again, that goes back to optimum spring compression, and that's why it's 53 rounds for these various reasons. All right, so let's cut to the range where I do a complete mag emptying of 53 rounds. Now, I'm not doing your typical mag dump where I just pull the trigger as fast as I can 53 times, because that does not really replicate how you actually shoot targets, whether it's combat or competition. As you can see, I'm practicing some up drills from the high or low ready and different round counts here in super fast splits. And that's, I think, more realistic than just me pulling the trigger 53 times and getting tired at the end and shooting a slower string. So I prefer these quick, fast, short strings of fire to empty the magazine right here. Now, I did mention I've tried 2 different uppers. The other upper I tried with the Quattro lower is one of my Fur Franz uppers. I've done a separate video on Fur Franz. I've been on a big M90 Zastava AK kick for competitive shooting, but now that I've got the Desert Tech Quattro-15 lower, I plan on hitting some matches with this setup right here. I've got a match coming up in about 2 weeks, 2-gun, and I'm really looking forward to trying out this 53 rounder under match conditions. And again, using this bad boy right here, I'm not gonna have to reload probably on any of the stages. And it's short, so if I need to, I can go prone and not be hindered by an extended magazine. So I'm really looking forward to trying this setup right here in competitive shooting sometime here in the near future. So what about in the context of tactical or military use? I don't see these jumping into the tactical shooting world immediately, but there's a lot of merit to having a lot of ammo on deck. It takes a lot of firing, laying down suppressive fire to maneuver in a firefight. If you look at a lot of the footage in Ukraine and unfortunately in Israel right now, it takes a lot of laying down the lead even to maneuver sometimes. And he who has the most ammo on board can win a gunfight just with suppressive fire. You lay down suppressive fire to maneuver, to close the distance, and then kill the enemy with accurate aim shots. So having a lot of ammo on board is not a bad thing. And again, I mentioned my last tour in 2015, I had some teammates rock some PMag 40 rounders. I've seen other SF guys do it. So yes, having more ammo on board is a good thing. Now, people will say, well, it's proprietary. Only people who have the Desert Tech Quattro-15 are gonna be able to benefit from it. There's no interchangeability. Well, one of the items I will be getting from Desert Tech here in the future, they do make a magazine adapter that will allow you to run 30 round standard mags. So that's one thing I'll be getting to test in the future. So let's say you do lose all your 53 rounders, you can put in the adapter and you can run a standard 30 round magazine. So you're not totally out of luck if you go with a system like this. Do I see the military jumping on board and looking at, say, something like this right away? Probably not. And that's because the military, I think, is still kind of jaded with magazines over 30 rounds, unfortunately, due to Surefire. Now, when the Surefire 60 rounder first came out, I was there in Special Forces. There are a lot of teams that, hey, 60 rounds on deck, why not? And a lot of teams purchase these. This is a first generation 60 rounder. This has never run right for me. And that's what happened with some SF teams that ordered a bunch of these. And I think it was around 2010, 2011 when these first came out. They had a lot of problems. And I know current generation ones from everybody I talked to, Surefire 60 rounders, and I believe they have a 100 rounder or 90 rounder, are running solid. But again, that's jaded, I think, the military into looking at systems like this because of the bad rollout Surefire had when they first rolled these out. So I think it will take some time, and of course that will have to do with the reliability and the longevity of these magazines. I wanted to get to 1,000 rounds through these mags before I made a video, but that's why I think I'm gonna make multiple videos. This is my heads up video about this lower end magazines right now. And again, when I get the full production magazines and the magazine adapter, I'll make a follow-up video to these. So do these have merit for tactical use? Well, having been in firefights, I would not turn down having a system that allowed me to carry more rounds. 4 magazines in 53 rounds is equivalent to having 7 magazines of your standard ammunition. And again, the less you have to reload, the better when you're actually in the middle of an engagement.
Stand by.
All right, so how can you get one of these Desert Tech Quattro-15 lowers? Well, they're taking pre-orders right now and they're going to be released sometime in November, as well as their full production drop-safe magazines. And these are going to sell the lowers for about $225. And the magazines, they're going to be $44.95 each. And to me, that is a deal. If you look at the Magpul D60 drum and the Surefire 60 round mags, which are still found at Gun Mag Warehouse, these are going for about $125 a magazine. You can buy 3 of those or 3 of these Quattro-15 mags and have over 150 rounds. So to me, that's a deal. Again, these are going to be about $45 compared to your higher end mags, again, like these Surefires. So there it is. That is the Desert Tech Quattro-15. Again, I'm going to be doing follow-up videos once I get the full production magazines and the magazine adapter that will allow for standard 30-round mags in here. And again, you'll see me at local matches here in NC running this bad boy. So like as always, hopefully you found this video entertaining and informative. I'm Jeff Gerwich. Thanks for watching.